Give me one
Okay,
second.
so
Yep.
David immediately cancels his video as soon as it starts recording.
No, just stop recording, start again.
Wait, yeah, give me one quick sec. I just wanted to get up.
He's camera
down for a second. All
I
right.
thought you look fine. You look fine.
All right. Imagine I came back like in a collared shirt.
Right, cool. So,
by the way, I just realized both of you have like the exact same shirt, and I'm the only asshole wearing.
no, I feel
It was like, oh, I thought there was a dress code.
It's like,
yeah, no, I've got nothing to hand.
No, it's all good. It's all good. He's got a baseball cap, literally.
If I had one.
This.
Oh wait, yeah,
it's all good.
There it is.
It's all good. Guys. I appreciate you.
Right. So, how far have you both got with Bubble?
I've been looking at a mix of the tutorials. I didn't have as much time as I wanted to over the weekend, but I was able to kind of look through like beginnings, hopping in, starting a few things, manipulating a few objects. But what I want to do is I want to be able to kind of experience that from your eyes, like walking through it, like building an app from the beginning, any app it can be. And I think that's going to be so much context with based on all the content I've already taken it.
Okay. And David, how about you?
Yeah, I've played around with the UI and like building like small things. Like it's kind of like more modular. And I tried going through a course on zero code, which was like just totally out of date and like not helpful at all. And now I just as of like earlier today, I'm starting like the Hello Guru course, which is all kind of like text and it's no like voiceover thing, but yeah. So I'm familiar with the interface, but like I haven't put together a full app where I got to like experience the magic of like, oh shoot, there's a back end which is like integrated and like that's the part. As of right now, I've just experienced a very clunky front end, which is a lot, let's say, worse than like a Webflow or even a card, right? Just like build something really quickly. So I haven't experienced like the magic of like, oh, just keep on focusing on this because of like the workflows and the back end and all this other stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the magic really is in the workflows. That's what sets it apart. I'm just trying to share my screen. Let me know if it works.
Yep.
I can see your screen.
Right. So you can see Bubble, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. Do you know if yeah, I think the video will record my screen, right?
It should.
Good to go.
Yeah. Okay. So I've started I made a blank project. Just start with a blank page. What app do you want to build?
What's your favorite app?
I don't have a favorite app. Tell me what you want to build. I mean,
I want you to build a Reddit.
David's going to give you very precise requirements for the app that he requires today. Like, I need these features.
Yeah,
Reddit. I can tell you about an idea that I have, like a simple idea, which I think probably would meet some of the requirements for like.
Or
like
do you want to build the Yelp for cops that we were talking about?
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, we could do that.
Let's start with an easy problem.
Okay, so when you start a project, you just get a blank. Well, I think they give you some templates, but I would just start with a blank page.
Cool.
Top left, there is a list here of the pages that are already built for you. So you can see there's index page, there's the 404 reset password, and then they have these reusable elements, footer, header, and sign up, login, pop up. So that's really useful because that's all done for you. The downside is all their default styling is quite bad. Although I've noticed that it actually looks better than it used to. So they are working on that. But that's one thing that I think puts everyone off Bubble is when you start out, it's hard to make things look nice as opposed to Webflow. Okay, so obviously the index page is going to be the landing page, so that you don't usually have much app functionality on the landing page. It's more of a like, this is what it does. click here to sign in and sign up. So I usually wouldn't start on the index page. So I'll create a new page and we'll call it submit. And you can clone it from an existing page, but I'll just make it a blank page. So I'm not gonna, the thing that takes me the longest with Bubble is styling things to make them look good. So I'm not gonna worry too much about that. So this app isn't gonna look good, but it will hopefully function. So if we're making an app now that is going to allow people to report police officers who have done something good or bad, you would need a submit page, right? So this is going to be the submission page, and you can obviously start with text up here. So submit your police officer review below. So anytime you create an element on the page, you get this handy kind of pop-up box which gives you all the different things you can do with it. The most important ones are styling and start edit workflow. So that actually makes it do something. So just like on Webflow, you want to kind of use their H1, H2, H3 heading styles, because that means if you're using one of these preset styles, it means you can edit it across the entire site. So say we want this to be maybe H2. That means anytime we use H2, I can then go into edit style, and here you've got a list of all the styles, and you can change the font. Oh, SEO tag, that's new. You can change loads of stuff here, and that will change it across the entire site. So it's important to use their preset styles. So this is just a heading. Sometimes it cuts stuff off in kind of weird ways. So you want to just be aware that if you like have a box and it looks like it's empty, like that, it might just be because it's not big enough to show everything.
And that's the part that puts off 99%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like I put an icon on the page, and I have to go through an entire manual to be able to style it. That's where the hard part comes in.
Yeah, it does, because it makes things look really bad when you're designing it, because they fit all the text into the box. So if you've got like a load of variables in here, it'll have those as well, and it just makes things look really bad as you're designing it. If you decide that you want to change, so just going to edit the style and center align it, so that will do it on all H2 headings. And then another useful thing I can do is, if I've got that selected, I can do arrange center horizontally. So for responsive mode, when it's showing on a phone or anything like that and the screen resizes, you either get the option of aligning everything to the left margin, aligning it to the right, or centering it. So if you have something that's slightly off center, and then you have some other stuff that's slightly off center as well, it's all going to behave a bit strangely. So it's always good to either center it horizontally, or just have like a set number of pixels away from the side that you want it. The thing about Bubble is it is truly drag and drop. There's no mention of margins or padding or any of that stuff. You just drag and drop stuff on the page, and when you preview it, it will look pretty much like that until you start going to different screen sizes, and then suddenly it doesn't look the same, and you're like, why does it not look the same? But for this, we won't worry too much about that, although I know that's an issue most people have. So then you've got so up here on the left of visual elements, you can put, so therefore showing data that's already in the database, or stuff like shapes and links. Down here, we've got input forms. So this is for putting information into the database. So what information do we want to collect? So badge number, obviously.
Right now,
And
David's looking at it, and he's like, I don't want to style anything. I'm very happy with the default fonts. They look lovely.
All right, so I think we should get a badge number, and last name, and like like text or video of what happened.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So
visual
is
media.
a badge numbers always just numbers, or do they have letters as well?
Probably just numbers for now. I don't know.
So you can choose the format of the content. You could have it text, which can be numbers and letters, or you can have text numbers only. I'll leave it as
Text,
just
yeah, that's
text. And then you can do all kinds of stuff like how many characters, is it mandatory? So we'll say this should not be empty, all this stuff. Okay, so and then I'm just going to copy that so I get something that's the same size, and we'll call this last name. And then what was the other thing?
fine.
The media. If you want to like upload photos or videos
Okay.
of the incident, so maybe you could say like, yeah.
So this is the file uploader.
Yeah, upload incident could be the title maybe. Mm-hmm.
So you'll notice when I change the placeholder on any of these, this thing at the top changes as well. So it becomes the name of this element becomes file uploader, upload photo, video. This becomes input last name because that's what I put in the placeholder. And that's really helpful because in a second we're going to need to reference these. And because it's automatically named them for us, we'll be able to find them much easier. Okay, so we'll probably want the date as well. So
Okay. Date sounds right. Then maybe like some text about the incident.
yeah. So
We need to list the actual like country location. Like I mean the state or city or something like that.
Yeah, location sounds cool. Like zip code or whatever.
Yeah, like this is an excellent example because of just how many types of media needs to be collected.
Yeah.
Like the workflow here is just fantastic.
So we can put in a multi-line input here. So this describe what happened. Just gonna expand the page downwards there, and you want to put in like location, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
So location.
Could it be like a drop down picker?
Of what?
Picker?
Countries? Address?
No. City.
City. So okay, so you want a drop down of cities,
Yes.
right?
I want to make your job easier.
Okay, so for this, you can choose between static choices and dynamic choices. So for the static choices, I can just Google a list of cities, say in the US, and just paste them in here, and they'll show up. If we wanted dynamic choices, I could create a database object type called cities, and I could upload all the cities into the database, and then just refer to that as a dynamic choice. So I'm going to do the first option because it's just quicker.
Sorry, the dynamic choice is pulling from where? Every time somebody enters
Yeah,
something
it can be pulling from the database. It could be pulling from an API.
Got it. Got it.
So if I wanted to list all the states, how could we do that dynamically?
All the
like,
states.
I mean, there's many APIs for that. I mean, it's just a list of states.
Yeah, so you could do dynamic choices. So you'd need to create something. So in the database here, so when it sets up your new project, it just makes one data type, which is the user. But here you could have states. Maybe I should call that state. Okay, so I created a new data type, And when it creates a new data type, it just has 3 fields on it. But then you would want name, and you can say what kind of information is that. So that's going to be text.
Okay, silly question on like all this naming convention, because I've like done this a little bit. Like,
Mhm.
would you name this state, or states would be like the database name? Like, there's got to be some, like, I'm guessing there's like some naming convention, or like even with like the name, would it be like state name or state? Like, I guess, how do you think about naming convention?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I tend to just try and follow, like they call it user, and so I try to make everything like the singular.
Uh-huh.
But I sometimes forget and just I would do like states or categories or whatever.
Well, the reason I mentioned that is like because like when you start doing like those, I think when like the workflows, it's like written in text,
Yeah,
right? It's like the whatever's value.
yeah.
Um,
So you don't need to put state name in here, because you will select from the list. You'll say state, and then I'll say apostrophe S. So it'll be the states, and then you'll select name. So you'll know it's the name of the state from there. You don't need to say the state's state name.
got it.
So you can name it whatever you want, and you can rename it later on, and it will change it throughout the thing. So you don't have to worry about messing up and not being able to correct it.
Got it.
So you would do this, and then you can go to app data, and you can see here. So this is the actual database. I've got all users here, none, and all states, and you can create a new entry. So you could say Arizona. And then you can do it like that, or you can upload them from like a CSV file. So yeah, if you've got the free plan, then you can't upload from CSV, but so you need a paid one, which is why I'm not going to do it this way. But then once you've got them all in there, then you could just say, okay, so let's make this the state then. Dynamic choices, type of choices, it's going to be state, and where the choice is coming from. So you can say, do a search for. So the do a search for you use quite a lot, because that's how you query the database. Do a search for state, and then you can add constraints, but there's not really any constraints because we've only got the name of the state there. And you can sort by name. That's fine. Close that. So now it's going to fill that box based on doing a search for states, and you tell it. So if it had more than just the name of the state, this would make more sense, but you tell it what you want to show for each state. So obviously you want to show the state's name. So here where it's red, that means you've got to select something. So as you can see, we've not got many options here, but I'm going to say current options name.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so now if I click preview, so there you go. You've got the 2 states there that we have in the database.
Automatically filtering alphabetically? Or is that
yeah, because I said sort by name, but I think it would have done it automatically even if I hadn't said that, just by default.
Yeah, default is descending, it says, I think.
Okay, gotcha.
And the cool thing is, obviously, if we had other fields on the state, we could add constraints. So we could say, okay, name contains, doesn't contain, equals, is not equal to, or we could say, who created it, is it, what's the population? You can do all kinds of constraints on any search like this.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll leave that as it is for now. And then the last thing you want to do is put in a button which will submit the form. So we'll just call that submit report. And this is a good bit. So start, edit, workflow. So that takes you straight into the workflow tab, but you can also get there just by clicking on workflow. And as you can see, we've got nothing going on this page, but because I just clicked it on that button, it's already created this. So when button submit report is clicked, yep.
So workflows are associated on a page by page basis, on an item by item basis. Like where do workflows live?
Or so they're on a page by page basis.
Okay.
But you can create loads and loads of different workflows on one page. So for example, you click here to add an event. So you can say when any of these things happen. So when the page is loaded, and then you can make it do all kinds of things. And you can have, you can have 10, 20 different actions happening when the page is loaded. You could have it do every 5 seconds, or when a condition is true, or when something is clicked. So that's what we're using at the moment, is when button submit report is clicked. So what do we want it to do? So we want it to create a new report, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can either, probably a good practice to do is when you're first thinking about making an app like this is to think about what are the different data types you want to have. You don't have to do it that way. You can just kind of do it as you go, which is totally fine. But usually I would kind of start by just thinking what data types I want. So I'm going to want a data type called a report, because that's going to be a thing. I might want a separate data type that's called a police officer, because they might show up in more than one report, right? That's the point. So you want to be able to tie them together. So every time someone makes a police officer, they're going to have their unique identifier, which is their badge number and maybe their surname. And you want to match that up with the same police officer from a different report. So you can either do it here. So I could say, create a data type called report. And then it's going to have a bunch of fields in it. And because I can't remember all the things on that page, I'm just going to do it from here. So I could have also have just said data, create a new thing. And then you can see in the list, it's got report as an option, but if it wasn't there, I could just say create a new type and put it in there. So I could have put in report there. I'm going to select report. Okay, so when they click that button, it's going to create a new report. But at the moment, the report will be completely empty. So I say set a field. And because I just created the data type and there's no fields in it, I'm going to create a new field. So I know one is badge. So I'll say badge number.
So that's a text field, yeah.
Text, yeah. And then, so what do I want that to be equal to? I want it to be equal to the input badge number. And it shows you a little preview of what that is. But because it already named it badge number, I can easily find it in the list. So, okay. And then it comes up with another pop-up. So it's like hinting you what.
Oh, wait, the badge number, that badge number is coming from the text field name.
Yeah, exactly. So when I created this text field here, and I said the placeholder, I typed in badge number, it renamed this input box to input badge number. You could change that name to whatever you want, just whatever makes it easier for you to remember.
Yeah.
So, but I can't just tell it input badge number because it wants to know what do I want from that input. Is it the value that's put in the input, or is it whether or not it's valid? So you almost always would say value here. And then I'm going to set another field. So create a new field. So I know that there was last name was one of the things we're collecting. And that's input last name. And as I'm creating these, I'm just looking down what are the other things I need to create. So
those are all the options from the page.
yeah. And so it kind of,
it
quite intelligently guesses what you need to put in there. So details, text field, and I'm going to multi-line input, describe what happened, value. So we've got media, and that's going to be a file. And that was file uploader. So this is an example where this is kind of why it's asking you what you need from there. Do you want the value from that? Or do you want the file size or the upload percentage? So these are all things you can get from that element. So we want the value, which will be the URL of the file of where it's stored. So we had state. Now, because state is itself a data type, instead of selecting just text, I'm going to select state, right? So by doing that, when you select Arizona in the list, it will link that field on this report to the state Arizona in our database rather than just the word Arizona, which would then not be linked. So that way you will later be able to sort by, what happened in Arizona. Let's have a list of those.
Got it.
State equals drop down state value. What else do we have? Date.
Sorry, in the way that you would know that this is different than just the standard input text, can you tell just basically from looking at this that it's from the database?
Yeah, because you do. Oh, it was when I did. Yeah, when you do type, it gives you the usual options here, but then at the bottom with the capital letters at the start are the data types. I don't know if it's just because I put the capital letters or, well, yeah, I always put capital letters on the data type. So maybe that helps you to tell it apart.
Okay.
But also you just know because these are the standard ones and it doesn't give you any others apart from these.
Okay.
So date time is date time picker as value. Okay, so now when someone presses that button, it's actually going to create a new report and send that to the database. Another thing we might want to show next is there's a thing called alerts. So you can report submitted, position it at the top. So that's just made a little alert that will tell them that it's successfully done. And then in the workflow, you can, so in element actions, there's something called show message, and it already knows you want to show an alert, and there's only one on the page, so it's already selected. So that will just show that. And then you.
Sorry, where did that come from?
So in all these actions, data is obviously making changes to stuff in the database, but element actions is when you want to make a change to anything visually on the page. So you want to hide or show a pop-up, or you want to show like an alert or something like that. You do it all here. So there's actually a little heading called alert with show message there.
Got it.
And then the last thing you want to do is reset inputs. So that just clears out the form so that all the stuff they typed is no longer there, so they can then submit another report if they want to. So that's kind of a standard thing. Reset inputs is just what you do on all input forms. Otherwise, they'll still have the information there. So go back to the preview. Every time you make a change, it says you will not be able to use until you refresh. So you refresh it. So
for example, if like somebody, could you do like the field validation, like they can't submit unless all the stuff is, I mean, presumably it's like that. It can't submit unless all the fields are filled out.
yeah. So on each field, it has this input should not be empty. So you can tick or untick that. If that is if that's ticked, then the button should not be clickable until you have. Okay, I think I only had that active on these two things, so that's just submitted that without the complete data. But yeah, if I had it on everything, the button would not be clickable.
Like right now, if you put in a badge number and just hit submit.
Yeah, so if I leave that blank and then submit, yeah, so it comes up red there.
Cool.
So can I customize the error?
Like what do you mean?
To put a message instead of just a red outline or stroke. Like give a pop-up message. It could be like, is there that kind of variability or?
Yeah. So.
Like I want to understand how much customization there actually is. Like, let's say I can deal with the complexity, but can I actually manipulate everything?
Yeah, I reckon. So if you look at the styling on a standard input box, here on the conditional tab, they've got this one, when this input isn't valid. So it shows the border as red. So you can change that color, but you can also change all these things here. So you could change,
Are you saying like maybe like make a pop-up box saying?
Yeah, so you could definitely do a pop-up. So I was just going to see if you could make the text appear in the box that said you need to complete this. But you could certainly have like a small text here, and you could have it so it just appears when necessary. So so if I say input not valid, and I'm just gonna, for the sake of speed, I'll make this smaller and make it red. Okay, so I can have that. So where is it? So if I untick this box, this element is visible on page load. This means it will not show on page load. And then I could either make it here. So in conditional, I can say when input last name isn't valid, this element is visible.
Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted.
Or I could make it so that if you click this button and input last name is not valid, then it shows. But to do that, I would need to make a custom state. So if I have it there now, it will show all the time when that input's not valid. Whereas if I had it appear on the button, oh, it's not showing. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so there it shows up when I press the button. So yeah, that does what you need.
That was very easy. Yeah, that's awesome. You would have to, like in tool like Webflow, you would have to set it all up with interactions and things like that. And it would just be so many more clicks. So actually that impressed me more than anything you've shown me. Like it's just the conditional, the conditional visibility is really the cornerstone, right, of an application. Like what can I see when I do this or do that or whatever. And if that was complicated, I can deal with like a complicated UI, but I cannot deal with a complicated full workflow for conditional visibility. So that's awesome. I can already think of so many ways I could use that to create prototypes and stuff like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and you can also, like in Webflow, you can animate stuff in. So if you say something's not visible on page load, and then there's tons of different,
but that's my point.
Different ways to animate stuff in as the page scrolls, and so on.
That's more for interactivity, though. It's not really for functionality. In this case, it's like, click here versus there. You know, like I can't say when user fills out this box. Webflow does not actually deal with inner text fields and stuff like that. I don't have that kind of functionality. And that's where I have to come up with tricky kind of shortcuts and whatever to try to get the result that I'm interested in. But this is awesome.
Okay, so I've submitted 2 reports. One of them only had the first bits of data and the other ones had all of it. So now if I go into the database, the data tab, and I look at app data and I look at all reports. So now I can see the 2 reports, one of them not without all the data and one with all the data. And you can edit it if you need to. So the next thing is that we want to be able to see this data. So I'm going to make a new page, call it dashboard. So to show any data from the database, obviously you're going to have multiple items, and you want it to show a list of things. So they've got this thing called repeating group, and that's basically what you need. So you drag it in and it gives you this 4 cells by default. You don't need to have 4, you could just define 1 if you want, but 4 kind of shows you how it's working. So when you click on this repeating group, first thing it says, what type of content do you want to display, right? So we want to display reports. And the next question is, where's the data coming from? So you could, there's plenty of options here. You could say current user reports. So if we had linked the reports to the current user, then that would just show up as an option, but we haven't linked the reports to a current user at all. So we're just going to do a search for type report, and then do we want to add in any constraints? So do we want to say state equals current user's state, so that when someone logs in from Arizona, they only see reports from Arizona?
Why is the state not capitalized there?
Because that's the name of the field on the data type report. It's not the data type itself. So if you remember on here, on report, I had created state, and that is a state. So that's linked to this, but in itself, it's just a field.
Yep.
So search for reports, and I'm not going to put any constraints on it now. So if I preview that, nothing there, because we haven't told it what we want to show for each of those data points. So it's loading up the data for each of the reports here, but we haven't told it what we want to show. So this is where you drag in your visual elements. So as long as I drag that into the top box, you can see it repeats over all of them, and I can move it around and it will move in all of them.
Repeating group is basically the Webflow CMS.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, awesome.
So you click in the box, and I could say, I can make this static, so it just says badge number. And then I can put in another bit of text here, and this is where I want to insert dynamic data. So it already knows that this repeating group is looking for reports, and so each cell is now already assigned its own report. So I can say current cells report. and that's what I want. So current sales report, but what do I want from that report? And I want the badge number. Okay. So if I refresh this, okay, so it's got the badge number for both reports. And then I could also say, so if I just copy and paste this to save time, current sales reports, and then I could say last name. And if I don't want to, so the way these boxes work is a bit fiddly in terms of like moving stuff around, but if I didn't want to have to keep creating a separate text box, I could just say last name like that. And it's actually really helpful to go into the rich text editor because sometimes it's really hard to get the spacing right and stuff. I could oops, no, I didn't mean to do that. I can make that bold. So you can mix static data and dynamic data within a text box. So then we've also got, I know it's an image for this one, but we could have had a video as well. So you can have a static image or insert a dynamic data. Current sales reports, media. Okay, so I just happen to have that image on my computer. I don't know why. I don't know why it's showing for both of them.
Did you upload?
No, I did upload it for both of them, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, you can just put all the data in that you want to see. States. Okay, so because state is connecting to a state in the database, which is just an object type, is still asking what do you want to know from the state because it's got multiple things on it.
Because it's linked. It wouldn't say that. It wouldn't say that if it weren't linked.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, this is the one that had a state on it, and I didn't change that to. So obviously it looks terrible, but it works. So you could now send that link to someone, the submit page, and they could submit reports and it would show up here. So the other thing we can do is when people press submit report, we create the new report, but we can also create a new, let's just call it officer, right? So I've created a completely new data type and we can say badge number is going to, so that's going to be text equals input badge number value. And we can say last name, last name equals input last name's value. And we can also say, and this is the important bit, so we can say reports, and we can make that field type report, and we can also say this field is a list of multiple entries. So this means when multiple reports are being filed about one officer, it will be stored against their record.
Would you want to make like a report ID sort of thing? And
So it creates unique IDs for every data point automatically for you, and you can refer to those. So yeah, you use those quite a lot. So I've created this thing called reports, and so because it's a list, it doesn't say equals, it has add or remove, or add list or remove list. So I'm going to add, and then it gives you the option result of step 1, the report we created in step 1, which is what we want.
Right.
So when we create this new officer, it's going to automatically link this report onto their record. And then I'll just drag that back there.
Does it matter where it is?
No, but usually I have like this kind of stuff at the end, and I do all the data stuff at the beginning. Sometimes it matters. Like if you're doing a page redirect, you need to do that last. But yeah, generally it doesn't really matter. So okay, submitted a new report. And then if we go to dashboard. So that shows up there. But now in the database, we have officers, and we have this guy here who was just created. So that means we could have on the submit page, we could now make this into a drop-down list of badge numbers from people that have already been submitted. Or we could give them the option of like searching for a badge number instead of just typing it in. I think if they were just typing it in, I guess you could just try and link it up with ones that have a matching badge number, but you know, they might put spaces in or something that prevents it from linking.
So for example, I think this is a pretty relevant thing for something that I'm trying to do, but like, could they be like entering it in and it like shows like every time a new person is added, it's like looking at like the drop down pre-fill, showing the available options, and if they like complete something that is totally new, then it would, you know, add a new badge into the database. My use case here is like, let's say you wanted to enter a name of, I don't know, a CEO in this case. Like you start typing like, and like things about the CEO, and you might start typing like Elon, right? And like there's you can see the drop down menu for you know, Elon Musk, but like maybe it's a different Elon. So like you can complete it to Elon James, then it would create a new entry in the database.
I don't think their default drop down can do that, but that's probably when you'd need a plugin. But so the other great thing about Bubble is that there's like 1,000 plugins that do all kinds of stuff that you need. So when you ever have functionality that you don't have, you could probably get one of these. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. And you might also, like, I've definitely seen stuff like that, like search with autocomplete and stuff like that. Search and autocorrect, fuzzy searching. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you could do that. And then, I mean, what else would you want? You'd want to protect all this so that only logged in users could see it potentially.
Sure.
Yeah.
or see the
Or maybe
dashboard.
you need to make an account before you submit something.
Yeah, exactly. So, so one thing you can do really quickly is you could say, right, so if you click outside of the page, so this blue box represents the page. If you click outside of it, like to the left, it comes up with the element field, the element box, but for the page itself. The page is called dashboard, and you can see it says page title and so on. So if you wanted to, so the first thing you can do is you can say general when page is loaded. So you can say navigation, go to page, index, only when current user isn't logged in. So straight away, someone's not logged in, they can't go to the dashboard page because it will redirect them. That doesn't mean you should leave loads of data on the page, and there are other ways to restrict the amount of data people can get. But it's a very quick and easy way to make sure people can't access stuff that you don't want them to. So the other thing you could say is go to the index only when the current user, and then you could say, so if I create a new field on the user and call it role and just call it a text field, if I say the current user's role is not, say, admin, and I've just typed in the word admin, then it's going to redirect to the page index. So then all I have to do is, so we've got users, it's created this little field called role. So all I have to do is on the index, say we have a button here that says sign up. So when someone clicks that, I'm gonna, so the other thing we want to do, any page where you want to have your sign up and login pop up, no, sorry, that's wrong. So if you go down to the bottom here, you get the reusable elements. So I'm gonna just drag the sign up and login pop up there. That's totally new. So still on the index page. So when someone clicks that button, I'm going to go to element actions, show, sign up, login, pop up A that I just dragged onto the page. Then if I go up here and I say show that pop up, no, sorry, I have to edit that in the actual reusable element part here. So sign up, start edit workflow. So they already do this for you. So when button sign up is clicked, sign the user up, right? And then hide the pop-up. So you can say change another field here. So I can say role equals, and then I can just type admin there. Sorry, could delete that. So that's it done. So now if any user goes onto the index page, and they click sign up, okay, so I didn't put a redirect to the next page, which I should have done, but now I should be able to visit that page dashboard. No, sorry, that's the wrong place to type it.
By the way, those URLs are just ridiculous.
Yeah, I know, but you get used to them really quickly. It just depends what you call the app. So I can go to this dashboard page now. If I wasn't logged in, then it would redirect me. And if I didn't have that role admin assigned to me, then it would direct me away.
Where did you assign yourself that role as admin?
So I just did it in the, in here when I said when they click sign up, it does this step, sign the user up, and you can just add other fields that you want it to change. So I said role equals admin.
So it automatically assigns them admin role whenever they sign up.
If you want it to. Obviously, normally you wouldn't have this. So normally you would not have them as an admin role, but you could just go in here into the database and find a user, and you could
give them
their role
yeah.
to like overseer or something or whatever.
Could you maybe, and I know we've gone over the hour, but so if you guys hard cut off, like, could you maybe like show us like basic sign in, login functionality? Like, imagine, let's just like, if even like visualizing this page, right? You might want to show up to, if you showed up to this page, you would see like just different reports of like what happened. Like you'd see probably that dashboard of like what has happened. But if you wanted to submit a new report, you'd need to like make an account before you could submit something.
Okay, so do you want people to make an account before they submit?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so
is that useful for your Sarkis too?
Yeah, definitely. I don't have a hard cutoff. I'm more worried about Kieran. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Okay, I can do 10 more minutes.
Awesome.
Okay, so let's say we want to do sign up and create report.
So would this be, would you want to put this on the dashboard page? Like, I'm just thinking like in this hypothetical scenario, right? Like people came to the site and they'd see all of the bad stuff that some certain bad Apple cops did. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, this is great. Like the next time that I can like view the different things that people are saying about cops in my state and all this stuff maybe. But then if something bad happens to me, I want to report it. And so I will go from like that dashboard, like that list page, and add a new thing. And for me to add something new, I would have to log in. And then the login would allow me to go to that submit page.
Yeah, sure. So this is the dashboard page. And by the way, I mean, I should say that although this repeating group looks awful now, you can actually customize it in so many ways. So at the moment, it's like got a scroll bar, which is horrible, but you could, you can get rid of that. You can have it, like this is a repeating group here.
Okay. That looks nice.
And this down the left is also a repeating group.
Really?
Yeah. So you can absolutely style it exactly how you want. And then,
you know what's crazy, Kieran? That in Webflow, the easy part is like setting up the visual approach. And then when you want to add in the functionality, you're like, okay, then I got to work hard to like figure out the logic and stuff. Here, it's the opposite. Here, the logic is a piece of cake. And then to make it one element responsive, you're like, should I build this or not?
Yeah, I know. Well, I watched
cut out a lot of features. Let's just make it simpler. No fonts. Let's just remove fonts entirely.
I watched a Webflow tutorial on how to make like an upvote, downvote button. It was like half an hour long, and they had to like go through like Zapier and all this stuff. And I was like, on Bubble, that would literally take probably 30 seconds maximum.
Dude, you saw did you test out the Apple Notes prototype that I made?
No.
Yeah, so applenotes.webflow.io. If you go there,
yeah, I saw it. I did see it.
So like I added a field with the whole form and everything where you can actually submit forms, automatically goes to CMS, pops up like the Apple Notes. And I had to use Zapier and like, Jesus, man, there has to be an easier way. It's what's funny is that it's a CMS function. That's not some, like third-party thing. Like Webflow should have that built in, where it's like when someone fills out the form, have an option to submit to the CMS. Like it's that simple.
I know. It seems really simple.
Yeah.
Okay, I also have a separate question here. Is like, and I know, I think I've looked it up in the past, but like, how does Bubble charge Because like the thing that is like a little bit irritating for me in like Webflow is like every single site costs like, essentially when you want to do basic functionality, everything that costs $10 a month.
Yeah, it's the same. Well, let's say, Bobby, you can do a free site, but obviously you're limited. I don't think you can use a custom domain, but the basic one is like $29 a month. So it's not cheap, but by God, it's good. I'm already paying them for like multiple sites that are doing nothing, but it just seems like good value. I don't know why.
No, but I know, Kieran, but I mean, you mortgage your house, so I understand why.
Yeah.
You can afford it.
This is a virtual background. I'm actually living on the street now.
This tent has so many features.
Okay, so I've made a button here called Submit Report. And when people click it, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to say, go to page, submit, only when current user is logged in. And then on this page, I'm also going to put the sign up, login, pop up. So on this, when they click submit report, I'm going to say element actions show sign up.
This is where the order matters, right? This is where the order of the workflow matters a lot.
Yeah, well, it would, I could leave this blank, so it will take them to page submit if they're logged in. Otherwise, it's going to show this. Or I could say only when current user isn't logged in. So then it wouldn't matter so much, the order.
Okay.
But that's covered all bases there. And then so on sign up, login, pop-up page, so because it's a reusable element, I have to edit it there. So when people do press sign up, I've already said sign them up and give them the role admin, so I'll get rid of that. But then I can tell it what page I want it to redirect to. So I could say go to the page, submit, and I could say only when current page name is, I don't know if it gives you the option here, no. So only when current page name is dashboard. So if they're on the index page, then it's not going to do this. So then I can copy this and paste it just to save time. And I could say, go to dashboard and right, so that means if they're on the front page and they sign up, it will take them to the dashboard. If they're on the dashboard and they sign up, it will take them to the page submit.
Okay.
And then, so then they're on the dashboard. I think am I signed in at the moment?
Probably.
Yeah. So one thing I didn't mention, but I probably should have, is one of the reusable elements is the header, and that has a button. So this will cause you so much pain.
It that has given me so much pain, and like even the basic tutorials, I fucking have no idea.
There's people who have sent me like questions like, how do I make this work? And I'm like, just try dragging out and dragging it in again. So like, this is just ridiculous that they make the default page width 960, but they make the default width of the header something else.
God.
and that's going to cause you all kinds of nightmares with the way it lines up.
I feel like when they do these questions, right? They're like, if you had a choice, like you were on a survival raft, right? You're on a boat and you had to like take one of your friends, who would it be? I feel like every time you want to add a design element into your bubble project, it's like it's like a life or death kind of like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Should I do it or not? I think I can live with a crappy looking website. It's okay. We'll chug through it. It's okay.
Once you get used to it, it's not that bad. But I mean, one thing to do is like decide how wide you want your pages to be, and then go to your header, and
Dude, I swear, David watched you add bold text, like make a text bold, and he looked at it like you just, I don't know, sparked a fire for the first time. He's like, oh my God, I think it's incredible. Do it again, bro. Do it again.
Width was set to like 1080. I've just made it 960. So
we're getting into the responsive side of things now, which is the easy part, right?
I don't even think it's responsive. It's just like, why is the default
I don't know.
not aligned? Why is the screen size not the same?
Also, what frustrates me is can you change the background color, or is it like pure white? 20.
Yeah. This is all. You can totally change the background color.
No. I mean the work area.
Oh, the work area.
The background.
Oh no, not yet. But I think I've seen some.
You can customize literally everything else except the goddamn work area.
What you mean, like this?
We're learning the basics, okay? Man, we don't need to customize the work area right now.
No, it is so blindingly white, David. Honestly, like, I've never felt more like a vampire than I do right now.
If you flip that collar up, you'll look like a vampire too.
He's not gonna let that go, man. Why don't you wear a t-shirt and a cap like the rest of us?
I've logged out. I clicked the log out button, which is half missing. So now I'm logged out. So if I now click submit report, it asks me to sign up or log in. So I'll log in. Although, actually, I didn't put the workflow on login, so I won't. I'll sign up. And I'll do it by clicking this button. So sign up.
You have to sign up. You're on the login.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so now I'm signed in and it's taken me to the submit page. So now when I create the report, I think it will...
Quick question, because when you built this, we didn't have user functionality. Now will it save the user who submitted the report?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will. I'll test that. Okay, just... Data, so reports. Yeah, so it says created by that person. And the email address is the unique identifier for users. So, okay, so for the other ones, how did it know? Had I already logged in on the other ones?
No, I mean, look at your first one.
Yeah, that was that one, right?
Was it?
Yeah.
Maybe, I have no idea why it would be there, because you hadn't made the login functionality when you made this.
Maybe because I was in the same session that when I logged in, it automatically re-tagged them with my email address.
I get the kind of like switching between states. That makes a lot of sense. So I feel like really the two major things you need to be able to manage is, number one, making sure that the design, there's no conflicts in the design. Like, you just showed me the button being tucked out, not being able to see it properly, like laying it out correctly. So that's the one challenge. And then The second challenge is making sure you manage all the states correctly. And that's something where you have to test it consistently, which is why they put up a message saying, hey, we're not even gonna let you play with this until you refresh the page. They know that, you know, like you can mix up the states very easily. Like if you don't, you know, maintain that train of thought as you're building this. But, you know, I think once you figure out like the initial workflows, I think build like one really complex workflow. I think, you know, you get the hang of it pretty quickly. And I think that's where you and Michael, shout out to Michael Gill, you know, like I think that's where you guys get really addicted to it, because you guys like push the boundaries and you're like, okay, I see, like, I've seen the other side. I've been on the mountaintop.
Yeah.
Now I can go build anything. It's like David and Sako could go and build their Zapier integrations till the cows come home.
Well, I mean, it's like all the stuff you can do in here. So like navigating places, doing stuff with data. You could just send an email. So if you install the Stripe plugin, you can just start taking subscription payments, start a new subscription, take credit card details, take a payment. And then obviously plugins or API workflows, plugins just come with tons of other things you can do. So, and then you can just string like 50 of these together in one long workflow. Although it might take a bit of time to run, it will do everything. So it's basically like just one long Zapier workflow. And this is really where the power is. And one really good thing about it is that if you do something and you forget to fill something out, or you do something wrong, you'll get this little thing up here, which gives you a list of the issues in your site. And having one issue is, you know, you usually have like 10 of them, but you click on it and it'll take you straight to the thing. Even if it's on a completely different page, it'll take you straight to the thing that you need to fix. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, I usually keep that at 0. And then when it goes up to 1 or 2, I look at what's there. And usually it won't let you publish the site if you haven't sorted these things out, but they're always like just very obvious what you need to do. And it really helps you. So that kind of stops you from worrying about, have I remembered to fill in everything correctly? That's like so important. And the other cool thing is the debugger at the bottom here. So if you have the question mark debug mode equals true when you're logged into Bubble in the same browser, then you can inspect elements and it will show you like all their conditions, all the current states, like is it valid, yes or no, all the settings on it. You can also say step by step. So if I submit a report, it then shows me the workflow as it's running. So I click the button, so then I run next, and it says, okay, create a new report. This is the values it's sending through. Create a new officer. These are the values it's sending through. Show alert. So there's the alert up there. Reset the inputs. So then it's going to clear out the boxes. And then that's the thing that I just did, which doesn't do anything. So that's actually frozen the workflow. I've crashed it. But it still seems to be doing something. But so the debugger is really useful. If anything's not working, you can just immediately see what's happening in the workflow.
It's loading at the top.
Yeah, but I don't know what it's going to do because I've just got this create a new thing with nothing there. But that's why it's telling me there's an issue.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Cool.
So
also got
I better go now, but I hope that was helpful. And yeah, I'm happy to do another session in a few weeks. If you guys are interested.
I'd love to, but real quick, actually, first of all, with the workflow stuff, just because of the workflow, I can forgive everything else. And I see your point. And that's why I actually am now officially the 9,000 follower on Bubble's Twitter.
Oh, nice.
I made it 9,000. I held out through 8,899 people suffering to be the 9,000th. But I want to ask you real quick before you go, Kieran.
Yeah.
Did you see, I want to remember his name. I want to make sure I'm not butchering his name here. But Alan Podemsky, did you see his rebuild of Bubble? Like the redesign concept that he did?
No.
Yeah, you got to see this. But I'll send you a link later. But basically, he did a whole like beautiful redesign, which kind of like took the best of both worlds with Photoshop and Webflow and everything. He did a redesign, and it looks fantastic. So I'm thinking, what if before our next call, what if I rebuild that in Webflow, the editor? I would love to see like how you could take something like Bubble with the workflows that are available and translate that into a really visual experience, because when that happens, I mean, there's no stopping this. Like I was just thinking about pricing, right? What you were talking about, you know, David brought up a good question there. It's like, well, if this is $10, that's $29, $39. I mean, if you think about it, if I'm hooking up to Zapier, and Zapier is, I have to hook up this other thing, and I also have to, I mean, eventually I'm spending a shit ton of money anyways. Like, you know, it's like if Bubble can just provide that out of the box and maybe, you know, adjust itself a little bit as it goes. There's obviously a lot to adjust here. I think that it can just destroy everything else in the market. Like it just becomes pointless. I just saw how many workflows you set up in 1 hour as we were talking, and it's nuts. Like I was thinking about just the PS4 prototype and other things. Like if I was to rebuild it here, I mean, from a visual standpoint, it would be, if it took me 3 days, it took me 3 months, like to do it in Bubble. But I think from a workflow standpoint, I could have added so much functionality, like before I design anything. Like I've
heard people using like Bubble as their back end as well, and Webflow as their front end. I've heard of that before. No idea how or who specifically is.
I mean, you can also use Airtable as your backend for Bubble. Like Michael Gill did a tutorial on how to pull Airtable data into a repeating group, and it's really easy, and it just works fine. So
could you open the link real quick, Kieran, in the chat in Zoom?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can stop sharing. I mean, keep sharing. Just open up the link. Go to Zoom chat. There. This is going to be a good cliffhanger for the next call. I think you'll really like this. As a Bubble user, it's really interesting to me what your perspective of this redesign would be.
What is he the guy? Is he the guy that works with Joe Brown on New Code?
Not sure, but when I saw this, I mean, obviously it's very inspired by Webflow.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, basically, yeah, combining Webflow's interactivity with Bubble's workflows is just, that's the monster you want to have. Like, that's Frankenstein right there. Like, if you're able to pull that off.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't use anything ever again. You could charge me $100 a month. I don't care. Like, I could build anything now.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be amazing. Like, yeah, just to be able to control your padding and stuff like that. Because at the moment in Bubble, if you want to do padding, well, you can do it within some elements, but often you find yourself using like a group container to put stuff in, just to make the spacing right, which is not ideal.
But you know what I loved about what you showed me, even though some of the things were complex, I love how I can use the arrow keys and stuff to move things around the page. I hate having to always use the styling panel to move things around. It's just like, Photoshop has been around for like 30 years, guys. Like, you know, like moving things around the page should not be such a miracle at this point in year 20.
It's cool because they have the little snapping lines when you're in line with something else, which is just super helpful.
Yeah, otherwise I see people trying to drag and drop like divs and stuff in Webflow in their videos.
Guilty.
Like, why isn't it moving? It's like, so I feel like Bubble, there's this give and take with both of the platforms. But I think like the problem with a lot of tutorials, and why I love listening to you, and I've watched some of your other videos too, is like you give context to these isolated features. Otherwise, like David and I can go through all the videos, and I watched many of them, you know, like whatever I could find on YouTube and stuff, to like go through and like, here's the button tool, like here's this div tool or this group tool. And I actually, the last thing I watched was the multiple groups, the repeating groups feature. And then today you just happen to show that and put context to, and I was like, okay, like I get it. Like that makes total sense. So I think the complexity is really in the lack of context, like to all of these things. Like, how would you use this? Like, that's why Webflow adds the question mark with every little feature, where it's like, just click here and watch a video real quick.
Yeah.
Like Bubble doesn't do any of that.
No joke. Like I really, and I just kind of wish they did this, but like those videos on Webflow are just insanely good. Like
Yeah.
Bubble, if they just did that exact thing, like every single element, there's like a video for it, and like basic things that you want to do, there's like a video for it, and who knows how long that would actually take.
Well, dude, David, if only Erik was here to like hear that feedback, man. Here it is, man.
So if I'm picking up what I'm hearing is that you wish there were a video.
Oh shit! No way.
And so good news is for a lot of the elements, there are in fact videos in the property editor for you to watch.
In the property editor.
Just neatly hidden away.
Fading so.
So I'll send you a quick explanation later on that. But yeah, it's there. Not only is it there, but we're redoing all of them and updating all of them. So great idea.
Yeah, he's right. I've never clicked on that button. How long's that been there for?
Well, at least as long as I've been in the company.
Look, that says a lot about Kieran's loyalty to the platform.
Oh my god.
Wait, hold on. If you say Bubble 3 times in a row, does Erik just jump on whatever Zoom call that you're on?
I actually sent a link to Erik, and I was like, "Hey, we're starting. Like, just hop on, be a guest."
I want that feature in Bubble. I want that feature in Bubble. Just call Erik.
Yeah. We don't do tutorials. Signals. No, we don't do tutorials. We do Erik. But Kieran, by the way, Erik, I'm officially your 9,000th follower on Twitter.
Excellent.
So
awesome.
I need to get a balloon or like a hug or something. Today, Kieran has converted me.
How much does it cost to FedEx a balloon to Chiang Mai from New York?
A T-shirt.
Yeah.
Well, you drop me your address when you get a chance, and I'll send you a bunch of stickers. How's that sound?
Oh, dude, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But I've been wanting to dive into Bubble for so long. I know we're holding up Kieran right now, but I think, like I was just telling, like having the context of how these features work through someone who's like a master at it is fantastic. It's otherwise you're just watching all these videos with isolated ideas where it's like, hey, you have this feature and that feature. It's like, well, how would I use this if I wanted to build an app right now? Like, you don't understand it. So today, like when he showed me the workflow, I was like, it just picked up immediately. I was like, okay, I already know like 5 things I could do with this, like a simple recipe I could do right now if I wanted to, So I think that's awesome. And I think if you had more of those, I think people would feel so much more comfortable. And so I'm definitely going to be diving deeper into Bubble, and I can't wait for you to get to the redesign to come out. We were actually just previewing the Alan Podemsky redesign. I'm sure you've seen, which is awesome.
Nice.
So it'd be hilarious if like that was the redesign at the end.
So I'm not going to give anything away, but we are working on some stuff, and if you dig hard enough, there are some screenshots of what's coming out there. So if you go on a little hunt, you might be able to find some of the stuff that our head of design Matt has been giving out here and there.
When's the release date, Erik?
I honestly wish I knew. I wish they told me these things, but the party line is done when it's done. All right, they're hard at work at it. And it's going to be across the board, right? So like everything is getting a facelift, to really just kind of match and convey how powerful Bubble is, which you're getting a feel for right now. And as Kieran can say, Kieran is, from my personal experience with Kieran, he's fantastic. He does a great job. I'm a big fan of your videos, by the way. And I'm going to apologize in advance because as Bubble puts out more content, it's going to make it harder for you to compete.
Yeah, no worries about that. I'm just happy that people are getting excited about it, and I want it to be more accessible because I'm fed up of seeing people on Twitter saying, "Oh, I just gave up on Bubble, like can't hack it," and I'm always like, "Oh, tell me how I can help because I just want to get you on board."
You know what I'm fed up of seeing? More people discovering Squarespace for the first time. Can we just, they're like, oh, it's so powerful. I'm like, guys, much respect to Squarespace, but the word power and Squarespace don't go together. So, dude, we should definitely do this again. Erik, you should definitely moderate the next one, man. I know this was totally like spur of the moment at the last minute, but I think like being able to engage, have that, building a relationship with the product, right? Like when I first got into Webflow years ago, like I had the initial people that I saw them using this, and it was like, yeah, I got to do this too. And now, you know, it's really humbling that I'm one of those people, and David and Kieran and all of you are like, we're all kind of like inspiring other people as well. So I think we should keep doing that. And I would love to engage more with Bubble. And, you know, it's not a competition to me at all. Like anyone who uses any of these tools to create something really great, we're all winning here. You know, like I see people like combining Webflow and Bubble now, like they're doing really interesting things, and we should see more of that. You know, this either or thing is just bullshit. Like, you know, we need to really bring everyone together, and I love what you guys are doing. I'm learning from all of you every day.
I've never been part of a more accepting and rewarding community. And, you know, this is just the beginning. And if this is a sign of things to come, you know, I'm so happy. Honestly, I'm so happy to be here. And anything I can do, let me know. Give me more of a heads up next time, and I'll definitely jump in sooner. But you know, as David said, you got to say my name at least 3 times.
We got to take a screenshot. We got to memorialize this. The
Hey,
day it all went down. 1 sec.
Everyone smile. I got one.
Should we have done like a bubble and it was a B? I don't know.
Oh my God. Yeah, there we go. Hey, let's do it. Let's do it.
I don't know. Is this backwards? I can't tell for you guys.
Is that the okay sign? Are we going to get in trouble?
Yeah. No, maybe.
This is going to look great
left hand.
terrible in some other cultures.
Yeah, 100%.
But Kieran, we held you up enough. Thanks so much, man. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch up again soon, guys.
Yeah, take it easy. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.